Hi everyone, my name is Pepper. I'm on day 14 of quarantine, and tonight I'm going to read for you some more art historical smut. Smut, it's not just for surrealists anymore. As you might have noticed, I have a large collection, and I particularly am interested in bizarre and eccentric histories. But here's the thing. If you go through art history, you're not going to get the full story just by looking at the work. Often, many times, artwork is autobiographical in a lot of ways, and it helps to know a little bit more about the people who created these amazing works of art. For starters, we're going to start with the big man himself, Pablo Picasso. Nobody called Pablo Picasso an asshole. It's not true. They probably did, because he had a tendency to sleep with other people's girlfriends and wives in some cases. It's just a thing that's going around. But this is Pablo Picasso later in life, born 1881 and then died 1973 or 72. 73, I believe. But in any case, Pablo Picasso was many things. He was a sculptor, he was a metalwork artist, he was a painter, he's considered to be one of the fathers of Cubism, he was also a designer, photography he dabbled in as well. He was never one movement or another. In fact, the Surrealists really wanted him to be a part of their movement, and they even had opportunities to have drinks with him at one of the cafes in Paris, and many of them were desperate to get him involved because he would be just the name that they needed to get the movement really huge and involved. But alas, you can't handle the Picasso. You know what I mean? He was just one of those people. Everything was new and daring, and he was always dabbling in one thing or another, including women. But he also had an intense rivalry / friendship, a friendly rivalry with Henri Matisse. Now, for those of you that don't have the familiarity with the artwork, I'll just give you a quick viewing. So, I'm sure many of you have seen this before. That's cool, you can see me in the picture. I have to figure out a better way to do this, but until I do. Matisse is known for a variety of different things, including his immense, rich, saturated color palette, his joie de vivre expressed in his artwork, his attraction to patterns, fabrics, as well as Asian-inspired looks regarding like costuming and things like that. And I do say costuming. Unfortunately, he does have a tendency to go into what would be known as Orientalism, which is not a great word, and unfortunately kind of like a fetish for artists at the time. But he's also considered to be one of the Fauvist, Fauvist, which loosely means wild ones, in which it was a use of color and just boldness. Okay, now Picasso, by contrast, as I mentioned, dabbled in a variety of different things, and one of his more dominating artworks is this, which is Guernica, which is probably one of my favorites. And if, when all this apocalyptic nonsense is over, you have an opportunity to go to Spain to see Guernica, it is massive and all involved, and it takes over the entire flippin' room. In fact, they won't even let you take a photo of it, which I was livid about. But not nearly as livid as the time I saw some woman on the New York City train wearing a Guernica skirt. It's like, do you know what that is? What is wrong with you? Philistine. Nonsense. Wearing artwork that is attributed to war atrocities. So, tacky. Stupid and tacky. But anyway, I digress. You know who Picasso is. Father of Cubism, father of Fauvism. Or one of the creators of both. It's weird because in art history we tend not to say that one person is solely attributed to making one movement start. It's usually an evolution of ideas and things and challenges from different previous movements, as well as different people in the movement themselves, attributing, learning from one another, and adapting and evolving. And I'm rambling, and I'm at 5 minutes, and I haven't even shown you the book. Here's the book for today. Another one that I highly recommend. I'm a big fan of memoirs. Big fan of artistic memoirs. I'm still trying to get through the Jimmy Ernst one. It's like oatmeal. It's like dense oatmeal. You know you're gonna be full, but it's taken you an awful long time to digest it. That's the best I got. But anyway, the book for today is Life with Picasso by Francois Gillot. As I mentioned, Picasso was a little bit of a ladies' man. Whether it be Marie-Thérèse, who is much younger and blonde, or Olga, or Dora Maar, he had a variety of different women in his life, and those are just the ones that had serious relationships. There's also the brief liaisons as well. As I mentioned earlier, Picasso and Matisse had a bit of a rivalry in terms of which one discovered what, which one could sell what faster, and they also even fought over patrons. Patrons meaning people who would buy their artwork. But it seems that there was at least one thing that they could both agree upon, and one thing that Picasso absolutely understood, and that was the ladies. So, Life with Picasso by Francois Gillot. Ta-da! Toward the end of the year, Pablo had finished his Gongora, and we returned to Paris to stay a few weeks. One day, he said, Matisse has come back from Venice for a few days. We'll go see him. When we reached Matisse's apartment into the Boulevard Montparnasse, we found the door leading from the hall into the apartment partially opened. It looked as though Lydia, Matisse's secretary, had gone to the floor above to fetch something and left the door open, perhaps planning to return almost immediately. We walked into the apartment. The first room, a kind of entrance hall, was rather dark. As we walked from there into the salon, out from behind a wall hanging popped Matisse, shouting, "Cuckoo! Cuckoo!" When he saw it wasn't Lydia, he looked so embarrassed that I felt sorry for him. Not Pablo, though. Lydia was his secretary. Not Pablo, though. He looked Matisse up and down with a satisfied smile and said, "Well, I didn't know you played hide-and-seek with Lydia. We're used to hearing Lydia call you Monsieur Matisse." Matisse tried to laugh, rather weakly. Pablo didn't let it go that easy. "The last time we saw you in Midi, you were so taken with the fact that Francois's eyebrows reminded you of circumflex accents, you wanted her to pose for you," he said. "It looks to me as though you were doing all right with Lydia's." It seemed hardly the moment to make an extended visit, so in a few minutes we left. Going down in the elevator, Pablo said, "It's unbelievable, catching Matisse at a thing like that." Lydia, according to Pablo, had first come to Matisse in 1932 or 33. Matisse didn't need anyone full-time, he said, but she told him she'd make herself useful by sharpening his pencils. He found that a practical suggestion, so he told her she could stay, for a while anyway, on that basis. Finally, Madame Matisse found it a little tiresome to have that young girl coming around every day. She gave him his choice. "Choose between the girl and me." Matisse thought it over carefully and after 2 days of sober reflection told Madame Matisse, "I've decided to keep her. She's a big help. She's a big help to me in preparing my income tax returns." After a great deal of wailing and gnashing of teeth, Lydia was installed as the official secretary. Pablo shook his head. "There's a Frenchman for you. Always practical." Just to show you that the smut isn't just the surrealists. Life with Picasso by Francois Gillot. Brilliant memoir, incredibly well written, a fantastic look into the mind of one of the artists that absolutely everybody knows, or at least knows about. Highly recommended. One of many memoirs about Picasso, but this one stands out as my favorite. So in the meantime, I'm up to day 16 of quarantine. Yes, I've watched Tiger King. Who would have thought that that would have been the distraction that we would have gotten here in America for what's going on outside? That having been said, stay safe, wash your hands, don't touch your face, and raise a glass to the world we live in and the world we dream about. We'll be back to normal soonish.